Hey, everyone, and welcome to our first ever episode in our podcast called Get Free to It. I'm your host, Chris Arrendondo, co-founder and VP of pretty much everything customer related here at Cargo Chief. In our series and upcoming episodes, you'll hear from not just our partners and TMS companies, but also Insight, and some brief discussions with some of our customers here at the Chief, covering unique topics in the logistics industry, anywhere from best practices, tips, tricks, new products, and market rates that seem to change overnight. Whatever it is under the sun that impacts this industry, you name it, we'll talk about it. So join us every Wednesday as we sit in and get free to it. So who the hell is talking on my screen here? For those of you who haven't heard of Cargo Chief, we're a freight tech company that solves some of the biggest issues when it comes to not just capacity, but sporadic capacity. Not just rating, but related to today's topic of inaccuracies and that volatility in the market. And how we do that is through a project and procurement software called C4. So if you're looking to expand your carrier base and book more freight, we should probably talk. So today, I've got Sean McGillicuddy with us, VP of Sales and Marketing at Tai Software, where we'll get into our headline topic of rating, what they're hearing from customers, what's new, and also kind of what's unique about Tai TMS. So Sean, welcome, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Happy to be part of the first episode here.
It's exciting. It's exciting. It's something we've been wanting to do for a while. So now we're here and doing it. So it's pretty cool. Thank you for being the first. So Tai Software is actually one of our newer TMS integrations where we can get our full experience from capacity, procurement, rating engine, and automation with that DFM or digital freight matching, kind of all in one subscription. So pretty cool TMS to check out. So let's get free to it. I'm actually here out of Houston, Texas, and gas prices literally went up 50 cents a gallon overnight, where our weekly fill-ups, I drive an F-150 four-wheel drive, pretty common here in Texas. They doubled probably from $70 a week to $150 a week, like literally. It was just overnight, and it's just crazy. It's hurting us pretty bad. So I think with rating and kind of since we have our own pricing engine too, we've seen some of these lanes, not just like from a personal standpoint, but commercial lanes, some of these lanes skew to kind of new normals, as fuel costs now more than $750 for a rig to fill up our carriers. And I think from the customer or freight broker standpoint, customers are still winning and losing out on freight in much smaller increments, but they're not buying in increments adjusted to the market when it comes to those carrier negotiations. Where like they're going to their customers, winning bids, and by $25 or so, and the next broker gets the freight because they bid cheaper. But when it comes to the carriers are coming in hot and heavy, like, no, buddy, I want double what you're offering me. And just due to price, I mean, it costs them now minimum $750 to drive, right? And it's like add on like other costs of like insurance, maintenance, and whatever else there is. Like it just kind of that new normal went from $1,000 a day to maybe like $2,000 a day. And that just causes things to go haywire over every lane. So I guess with that, Sean, what are you seeing and I guess what are you hearing from customers when it comes to rating and challenges like this?
Yeah, and obviously, fuel cost is part of the deal, but it's it's a variety of reasons for why prices are sort of all over the place, and it's when you look at the last couple of years, I mean, the market's just been so volatile where things have, prices came down obviously, but things are just still pretty unpredictable, especially not knowing exactly where the economy is headed over the next, some people are saying over the next 2 years, or at least the next 18 months. And so our customers have definitely been taking advantage of these various rating tools. The legacy tools that have been on the market for a long time when it comes to predicting a truckload rate have always sort of been a little bit where the data might be from last week or might be a combination of the last month, the average of the last month. But we're seeing a lot of tools come onto the market that are trying to get a little bit more zeroed in on everything, not just historically, where have things gone over the last month? Because if you took your last 6 months worth of data, it's almost irrelevant at this point, right? So if you were just looking at your own data or the market's data over the last 6 months, it's not quite going to help you get an accurate rate on what your truckload freight is going to go for. Which in not having an idea of a way to predict what the rate's going to be, it slows you down in the spot quote market, and it slows you down in the ability to return a quote back to your shipper, right? That would be accurate enough to then go find a truck. Because I think that's what happens in the market quite a bit, is where our customers see a lot of success in their ability to get back to say a spot quote rate quickly, like within 5 or 10 minutes. If they can do that, they're winning a lot of the time, even if they don't have the cheapest price. But they're afraid sometimes to do that because of the volatility of the market. So if you have a combination of rating tools that you can trust, and you have also some way to match that up with the potential carrier in your network that you could go to with that shipment, but you don't have to get an official answer anywhere. You can fire a quote back and get the customer to say yes to it. The speed of that transaction is what gets the win more times than, obviously it can't be too high, but the speed of that transaction will up your win ratio, whether the price is slightly higher than the competitor or not. So now the problem is finding a way to really trust the data that you have. And so our customers have found that they tie several together, right? So, obviously Cargo Chief's got their product now on the market, which we're integrated with. But there's the historical legacy providers out there like Dat Rate View and Truck Stop Rate Mate and things like that, I recommend you have a combination of these, right? So you have something that does show you your historical data, and gives you somewhat of an accurate depiction of the market. But I think you need more data. I think that's the big thing, is you need a forward-looking rate intelligence tool, right? You need something that's being a little bit more innovative than just historical, right? Something that's taken into account fuel prices, weather, just general capacity in the area that you're trying to move in, right? You have to factor all those things in. Otherwise you're leaving yourself it's just not a predictable rate otherwise.
Yeah. It's like, if you're booking freight today, and you're trying to forecast and quote for something like, I don't know, what's today, Monday. If you're trying to book freight for, I don't know, let's call it Friday or even next week, the moment freight becomes available, that load to carrier ratio starts to change, right? And it's like having a good pulse on what people are actually booking freight for outside of your own network just gives you more data, right, to make that decision. I think there's a lot of subjective scenarios that go on, with quotes, like you said, lack of confidence or just time whenever you're quoting a shipper. It's it's almost like the more data we throw at them, maybe it's just causing a little bit of noise, but it's really about interpreting that information and leaving it up to you to tie it all together, right? So it's connecting all the pieces and giving them something to be able to interpret and make that decision quickly. That's really what's going to move the needle for a lot of them. And we see that all across the board. We just finished up our Jacksonville tour, I guess you could call it, with some customers there in Florida. And each customer was quoting stuff differently. There was one that we visited that they were talking about hey, who quoted this? I don't know. It's 40 minutes old. Well, we'll win the freight. We just got to quote them next time quickly. And it's there's a lot of that JIT, that just in time freight that needs to go. They just need a quote, so I can tell somebody what it's going to cost us, so we can make that decision as a shipper. So it's all this stuff, these rating tools, yes, I agree completely. It's important to know historically what you paid, but also what are other people's paying, if you have that capability, or just what's real time right now, or tomorrow, or Wednesday, because every load that gets booked, that market changes, because it's less supply of trucks and more demand to move freight, and it just keeps happening. So I think it's not starting from ground zero. I was talking to someone earlier about Groundhog Day. It's this industry is just you come in Monday, start back over on Tuesday, start over on Wednesday, having that same set of freight, those same set of loads to quote. So I agree. I don't know. It's rating is a challenging thing.
Yeah.
So
when you touched on something good there too, which is just not just the data and not just the rating, but like you said, it needs to fit into a process. You can't be jumping into 12 different places trying to determine what should this price be, right? You got to find the data that you actually trust, and then you got to be able to display it, quickly and accurately on the fly while you're looking for. And then if somebody has rated something 40 minutes ago, there's got to be a way to capture that, right? And that's one of the
Yeah.
things we do in Tai is you got to be able to, like, we got to give the tool to make it so that the tool can capture something that was rated 40 minutes ago, so that somebody else can see, oh, like right now, hey, Jimmy just quoted something about an hour ago on this same lane, and he said this. That's off from what I was going to quote. Maybe I should follow up with him, right? And without that visibility, it's really hard. Without everything being in one place, it's really challenging to be consistent and give everybody the tools that they need.
Yeah, then it's just the grapevine, and you get five different rates from five different people that, like, what happened to that those conversations around that next time that freight comes back. Like, there's not much learning from that experience that transfers over. It just, like, every day is just going to be a new situation because there's not a centralized place for that learning to happen.
Right.
um yeah, I
Yeah.
know. So I think kind of integrations with rating engines or capacity to whatever it is to, like, help make that decision a lot better, less legwork. It seems like those are happening left and right these days, not just with you guys, but a lot of TMSs and freight tech companies are just they kind of move the throttle on integrations to help push data and interpretation and intuition. I think, like, today we're kind of a spreadsheet industry. I would say it's like everyone has a spreadsheet for something, for a spreadsheet for something else, and it's like being able to interpret all that information consistently is really important. And I know, a lot of the tools that we have is little bit more forward thinking than a spreadsheet. But yeah, I think, when we integrated, we did different solutions, probably kicked that off in like 2 to 3 weeks. It was blazing fast. So kudos to you and your team. But I guess in terms of other things, like all things rating or anything else, like, what are some integrations that you guys have coming up that's going to help move the needle, I guess, for your customers, and I guess kind of what sets you guys apart from the rest?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I get that question a lot because obviously TMS and freight software is a pretty competitive space, and so sometimes I think the industry rushes toward a way to answer that question, like what sets you apart, in a really like fancy way. Like you want to have this like mic drop answer, right? But honestly, to me, the reality in what sets Tai apart and is we think about these integrations in terms of workflow, right? So there are so many great tools out there related to rating, capacity automation, digital freight matching, all things that can happen within your TMS if you have a TMS that can create the integration for you, right? So we we more so specialize in workflow optimization for brokers, right? I mean, if you think about the way that this industry works, being a freight broker is not it's not a complicated business model. It's a hard job. It's a very difficult job. It's very challenging. Comes with a lot of nuances that you wouldn't get in other industries. But the business model is not complex. Shippers need freight moved. Truckers can move freight. How do I put those two people together? Right? Easier said than done. But when I talk about with Tai, when we talk about workflow optimization, we want everything that you normally do to be able to happen on one or two screens, right? And that's the way we're set up within Tai. Is everything, like when it comes to even communicating with shippers and carriers, sending documentation, tracking shipments, posting shipments, all different kinds of things like that, reaching out to your carrier network. All of that can happen within a couple clicks, from one or two screens within Tai, right? And so tools like, I really think that the future of TMS is let your TMS be like your core operating system. Make sure that the workflow is optimal for your business model, and then all these integrations need to be able to the TMS needs to be able to support these integrations, and they have to fit right into the workflow, not just, hey, integrations over here, click through 17 things and you'll get there, right? That's not really helpful. Like if there's a new innovative tool on the market, that's got to plug right into your workflow, and it's got to be intuitive, right? So if you're using capacity automation, then it's like, well, now I don't have to post. It should, as soon as it goes into a particular status, like booked or ready or whatever the case may be, that gets pushed right out into your capacity automation tool, right? And then when you price it to your customer, being able to see all of the rates that could potentially, like all the rating data on one screen, and then to be able to email that back all from the same screen, that's important, because if not, you've got 20 different tabs open, you're closing one thing out, jumping into another, and it makes, it makes a process that should be, like I said, it's simple. I got to find a truck, right? It's not easy, but the concept of like, I got to find a truck for this shipment is not something complex to figure it out. So how do we make it so that the power is really in the hands of the broker to be able to just couple clicks and you've emailed that to every carrier, you've accessed an capacity automation tool, and maybe even posted it with, three or four clicks, right? So
Yeah, no, you're spot on with having all these screens and things. Like, again, our customer visit, they had 4 monitors, actually 3. They ran out of space, so they had a small laptop on the side. So it's like, we're seeing in action, like they're using this tool to satisfy this tool to satisfy this tool to make something happen here, all to just come back and work here. So it's like, by the time they did all of that, that was another like 5 minutes in offer, 5 minutes of load that like just gone, right? Like yeah, I mean, like having everything in that one place, like it's so incredibly important for a lot of people to understand, like where are my inefficiencies, like, and what's my goal? Why am I even coming over here? Like, what is the goal? Is it just to like rule the carrier out with a polar answer of yes or no, or is it like, am I really like getting a lot of information to make my decision? What is that, right? And so it's like very important that you have that solution that satisfies kind of more than one thing in one area. So I get it. So I guess, Sean, thanks again, man, for joining us today. Curious, how can people connect with you? Should we find you on MySpace? I don't know, these days it's 2022, or should we connect with you on LinkedIn?
there's probably an active MySpace out there somewhere for me, but I don't think I've looked at it in 10 years. But yeah, I am on LinkedIn. So Sean McGillicuddy. You can always go to tai-software.com if you want to find out more about Tai, book a demo with one of our sales reps, anything like that. And then you get to see Cargo Chief's integration in action within Tai as well. So if you want any of those things, visit our website or look me up on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to connect.
Awesome. And a sincere and excited thanks to everyone for listening in to our first episode of Get Free to It. Tune in next week to hear about load management versus procurement, and every Wednesday to get the inside scoop of what's going on. So till then, connect with us, Cargo Chief, on LinkedIn, or visit us at cargochief.com. So see you next time.